Hello, learners. Welcome all of you again to this session on recruitment, which is a part of management of human resources. In the bygone session, we dealt about talent, and under talent, we dealt about human resource planning, job analysis, recruitment, and selection. And in this session, we would certainly be looking at recruitment as a most important key and one of the primary keys in management of human resources. What is recruitment? Recruitment is a process to deliver the sources of manpower to meet the requirements of the staffing schedule and to employ effective measures for attracting that manpower in adequate numbers to facilitate effective selections of an efficient working force. Very beautifully summoned and presented in this in these beautiful lines about recruitment is it is a process to discover the sources of manpower to meet the requirements of the staffing schedule and to employ effective measures for attracting that manpower in adequate numbers to facilitate effective selection of an efficient working force. As we dealt in the previous session, there goes a lot of difference and there is a line of differentiation between recruitment and selection. Now, if suppose I being a human resource manager and I have to be a part of a recruitment and selection procedure, I would certainly not hire the population of a state to meet my job requirement, but there will be a series of filtration, there will be a series of processes which would come as a filter to the final recruitment or an efficient working force. What is recruitment? The factors which affect recruitment. Recruitment is affected by the size of the organization, whether it's a sole proprietorship business or partnership firm or a joint Hindu family business or public sector undertaking or state government, central government jobs, institutions, it all depends and boils down to the size of the organization. The second factor which affects recruitment is the employment condition in the community where the organization is located. Suppose I want to set up my second unit. Bangalore, if you take as a place which has around 30 to 40 lakhs of population. Suppose I have a unit, my firm in HSR layout, and I want to set up a unit in Rajaji Nagar. So definitely I have to talk to the municipality, I have to talk to the ward, I have to talk to the locality and all. And there might definitely be a community reference, there might be a top reference of a pool of candidates whom I can look at for the organization, for recruiting in the organization. So employment condition in the community where the organization is located also plays an important factor in recruitment. The effects of past recruiting efforts which show the organization's ability to locate and keep good performing people. That's very true. Confidence in the top management comes provided the current employees or the employees who were recruited in the past have proved their mettle. Until and unless the business outperforms its own results or creates a niche for itself or brings in a word of mouth, nothing would happen. The fourth factor which affects recruitment is working condition and salary benefit package offered by the organization, which may influence turnover and necessitate future recruitment. One of the factors which affects recruitment is the rate of growth of organization, the level of seasonality of operation and future expansion and production programs, and cultural, economical and legal factors. Once you set up a firm, there are some internal factors which govern recruitment, and they are recruitment policy of the organization, human resource strategy of the company, size of the organization and number of employees employed, cost involved in recruiting employees, growth and expansion plans of the organization. Now coming on to the recruitment policy of the organization. Suppose IT giant comes out with a policy that there will be recruitment freeze in hiring for next 2 quarters, falling at the last 2 quarter ends of the uh, firm's physical. The recruitment policy, so that is a recruitment policy which will hold affect the recruitment process. Human resource strategy of the company. If the company says that we want some efficient leaders who will generate business for us, in that way the process of recruitment would start. Size of the organization and number of employees employed. Suppose there is a manufacturing unit which is set up in Andhra, and the same thing wants the company wants to move out of Karnataka and wants to set up in Calcutta. So definitely, when the size of the organization is in an expansion mode and the number of employees are transferred from the present company to set up a culture in Calcutta or any other place, that also becomes that affects the process of recruitment, which is the size of the organization. Cost involved in recruiting employees. Cost is very important factor because at the end of the day, it is a factor which governs everything in life. And one cannot play with the cost factor because cost factor has to be under control, and people when offered and are given, they have to deliver their best and all. So cost is very, very important. Suppose in an example where we hire a manager who is from a very elite institute by paying a package of 30-40 lakhs per annum, but the output is below that, that will be a cost which will be affecting the company. So cost is very, very important in recruiting employees, and initial stages of the company formation or setting up a business, it is very important that the cost is minimized and the results are maximized. Growth and expansion plans of the organizations. As discussed, when there is a growth in the current organization and there are expansion plans, it points and hints out at the recruitment policy. So it is very, very important that whenever there is a growth and expansion plan of the organization, human resource planning must and is of prime importance, because the company will not run with machines or robots but with human resources. External factors which govern recruitment are supply and demand of specific skills in labor market. Suppose Reliance is starting up a jewelry shop in Karnataka, and there are already existing players like Malabar Gold, there is Tanishq, there are Joy Alucas and all. So what is it they have to look at? A manager who is having experience in handling a certain retail outlet for the past 5 to 6 years or 10 years of experience, that it has to have a efficient human resource department who will give the necessary training and plan the development and finally look into the performance appraisal of the employees and the labor market, which would produce and supply to the front end warriors, which are also known as the customer support associates, who will in turn deliver the business output and all, who should be very affluent in English, who should be qualified, who might be having experience of gold and other precious metal substances, So it is very important, the external factor which plays a very important role in, in affecting the supply and demand of specific skills in labor market. Now coming on to the second external factor, that is political and legal considerations such as reservations of jobs. Definitely, certain things which go without saying, that there are political and legal pressures and obligations which a firm or a company has to undergo in terms of recruiting and putting some candidates into fitting into the organization and all. Company image, perception of the job, and seekers about the company. A major retail giant is setting up one fine morning in the newspaper it comes, a major IT giant so and so is setting up its a world-class facility center or world-class center in Port Blair. Definitely the company is having image and perception about the company would certainly attract talent wherever it is. So company image plays a very vital role in recruitment process. Now moving on, there are some general principles of recruitment and which follow as the principles of recruitment. To find and employ the best qualified persons for each job, to retain the best and most promising of those hired, to offer promising opportunities for lifetime working careers, to provide programs and facilities for personal growth on the job. What is a policy in recruitment? A policy may involve a commitment to broad principles such as filling vacancies with best qualified individuals. It may embrace several issues such as extent of promotion from within, attitudes of enterprise in recruiting its old employees, handicaps, minority groups, women employees, part-time employees, friends and relatives of present employees. It may also involve the organization system to be developed for implementing recruitment program and procedures to be deployed. What are the elements of a recruitment policy? A well-defined recruitment policy will certainly go with the objectives of the company. If the objective of the company is to best brands with smart prices, so all the functions, activities should move in the same direction. Now, moving on to the second element of recruitment policy, that is identification of recruitment needs. Recruitment always involves a cost factor, so it is not like every quarter you have recruitments or you have a recruitment drive or selection, but a pool of prospective candidates through the key, which is recruitment and selection. You have a pool of candidates who continue for a longer time, and if there is a gap and if you do a gap analysis, then you identify there is a need for recruitment. One of the other elements of recruitment policy is the preferred source of recruitment. Moving on, the criteria of selection and preferences, the cost of selection and preferences. Now, if one were to ask what will be the prerequisites of a good recruitment policy, and that follows as it should be in conformity with its general personnel policies. There should not be any deviation. A deviated recruitment policy will not go hand in hand or will not share the desired results. It should be flexible enough to meet the changing needs of an organization. Good recruitment policy is in a pandemic situation like that, definitely business, and we have to live with this pandemic situation. So recruitment, if the company is coming up with some new strategies or new businesses and all, where we would require to hold a recruitment policy. So the recruitment policy or the recruitment should be flexible enough to meet the changing needs of the organization. Recruitment should highlight the necessity of establishing job analysis. Recruitment should match the qualities of employees with the recruitment of the work for which they are employed. A good recruitment policy should be so defined as to ensure employment opportunities for its employees on a long-term basis so that the goals of the organization should be achievable and it should develop the potentialities of employees. Sources of recruitment. Internal sources. Internal sources would follow transfer, promotion, upgradation, demotion, and rehire. Suppose there is a team leader who is looking out for a good promotion, and he is transferred from Ahmedabad to Hyderabad. So definitely he goes to Hyderabad with a promotion, and there is a transfer. So internally we are retaining talent, we are hiring talent, and we are promoting our business. Upgradation. Upgradation is like upgrading oneself. Suppose from a team leader one goes as a department manager or ASM. So there is a transfer, there is a promotion, and there is an upgradation of the employee. So definitely there is a gap where the main employee position needs to be fixed, and that is one of the internal sources of recruitment. There is a demotion. Demotion 1, demotion 2, and the third one would be retrenchment. So when demotion usually is a countable number, but definitely if there is, then we have to look at the gap analysis and rehiring. Suppose an employee due to family issues or personal problems had to resign and he was an outperforming employee. So definitely we would look at rehiring him or her for a future perspective. External sources. New entrants to the labor force, then the unemployed, the retired experienced persons, and others like married women, minority groups. Now moving on to the sources of recruitment, we have the methods of recruitment. The methods of recruitment would be first the direct method, the indirect method, and the third party methods. Direct method would be where, as a representative of the company, as a recruiter, I go to, suppose, a well-defined educational institute, to do a recruitment drive. I select and offer the candidates, give them campus placements and all. That is one of the methods of recruitment. The indirect methods would be, there is an advertisement in the newspaper, which is most common and most widely reachable. It could be in the radio, which is gone to very minimal these days, in the trade and professional journals, in technical magazines and brochures, the employment brochures. The third party methods would be the private employment agencies, state or public employment agencies, schools, college and professional institutes. Third party methods would also include professional organizations, employee referrals. One of the, though uncommon in previous days, but very common and most effective is the employee referral. IBM follows a very, judiciously follows the employee referrals, where the old employees on reference, they go for, giving the employees reference a chance to be heard in the recruitment, in the selection procedure, and if okay, they finally go ahead with the offering. Trade unions. Now, trade unions are very dominant in some parts of India, and definitely they provide as a, they bring in a pool of candidates which becomes a raw material or a raw talent for the recruitment and selection procedure. casual labor or applicants at the gates. Suppose there is an advertisement, we need a sales guy for our Chroma store, and you get a pool of resumes which come to your security or which come to the human resource development department, and then the scrutiny of the prospective CVs happen, which are used as a method for recruitment and further leading to selection. The third-party methods would also include unconsolidated applications, voluntary organizations, and computer data banks. So at the end of the session, we would just look at the factor that recruitment is key and a gateway to the final goal of the organization. And that's all, learners, in today's session about recruitment. We would certainly be meeting up in the next session, where we'll be dealing with the next session of the recruitment process, which is selection and all. And both the methods of recruitment and selection are very, very important, and the two important arms of any organization, which make or break the company. Thank you very much, learners. We will come up with the next session and wish to meet you in the next session. Thank you.